All right. My guest today, fresh off a newly signed 3-year deal with the Memphis Grizzlies. It's my guy, Jontay Porter. How you doing, sir?
And I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on the show.
Man, I appreciate it. We talked about it. It's good timing. Good timing.
Great timing. Yeah.
So when you had thought about this, at one point in your whole life, signing, your long-term official NBA deal, putting pen to paper, what was different? What was similar than what you thought it would be?
I don't know, man. It's just kind of like a manifestation of everything I've gone through and believed in these past few years. Has been really tough. If you follow my basketball story at all, you would know that it hasn't been the easiest journey, but to kind of see all the fruition. I mean, basketball has been like my whole life. Not my whole life, but in terms of what I do for fun, and obviously my job, it's been basketball. And to just see it come to fruition and have that guaranteed money, signing that dotted line, just like a weight off my shoulders, because that's what you work for your whole life. And obviously I still have goals and aspirations with it, but it is good to get that little, first rookie deal out of the way, start pursuing that big boy check next.
Exactly. Yeah. It's only up from here, but it's interesting to think about it in that way, because people will ask me sometimes like, oh yeah, cool. You have a podcast, how much does your podcast make? And I'm like, it takes a long time. And even for you, think about how many years it took for you, sacrificing, working extra hard, having everything line up, putting all that extra hard work into now, how many years in do you think of your basketball career? Is this 10, 11, 12?
More than that. If you count my childhood, it's like I started playing when I was literally 3, upward league. So I wasn't in love with it. It was just because my parents had me play. But like I said, it really, as far as I can remember, it's been a part of my life. And you're exactly right with everything, whether it's a podcast or basketball or a job. All good things, I think, take time and sacrifice to really. Unless you just have a scratch off lottery ticket, it takes time to be great at something. So it's just really encouraging to see people like you grinding at your deal, and I'm just honored to be a part of it. So, but yeah, it's been a huge weekend for me to say the least, and great for the family too.
Man, well, that's an honor. It's watching you, and we'll get into your journey. I want to go through as much of it as we can here, but it's exciting. So starting off from the beginning, what was life like growing up in Missouri? What town did you grow up in? What was good? What was bad?
Right. So yeah, we moved to Missouri when I was about 4th, 5th grade. My dad took a assistant coaching job at University of Missouri for the women's side. So it wasn't the highest pay grade or anything. My dad just really wanted to get into coaching. He coached us like our whole childhood, all of our teams, the girls teams, the boys teams, all of it. So he just loved coaching, loved being a part of his children's lives, and wanted to coach us in college one day. And that was kind of like the first step to it. So I was pretty hesitant to move out to Missouri because, I had my childhood friends in the neighborhood, and I'm just a kid. I don't want to move what I thought to be across the country, but it's really not that far. But yeah, that's kind of when it took off. We didn't really have friends out there. We were still homeschooled, and we had access to a D1 school's gyms. So that's when all of us kind of hit the ground running. And whether we liked it or not, we all were in the gym every day, a few hours, sometimes longer than that. And then just trying to be the best at what we did. And it kind of worked out for us pretty quickly with our teams. And, little Columbia, Missouri, there's not too many competitive teams like there is in Indianapolis, Indiana, which is where we came from. So we were always like, each one of us was almost the best player on our team, except for me, because I was playing with my older brother and he was always a stud. But it was just pretty cool to see, but at that time was hard work for us as kids pay off. That's kind of that gratification, seeing success is what drives you to be better at that thing. So I think all of us got a little taste of that when we moved to Missouri, and it kind of just lit a fire behind us, and we kept going from there. So Missouri is a great opportunity for us. At first, we didn't really like it, but it's really paid off for us. And now that's what I'd probably consider home. And my family is there to this day.
Wow. And talk to me about your dad. I've just heard a lot about him. It must mean a lot to you. We'll talk about college here in a little while, but for you to follow him and go back to Missouri, and what is he like? What kind of coach is he like? What kind of dad is he like?
For sure. He's the coolest guy in the world in my eyes, and I looked up to him in every way. He's the one who taught me basically everything and all that I have today, and whether it's basketball or how to be a man. I think he's just done a great job at being a coach and also being a father on the basketball court. That's no easy task. I see it every day. There's coaches that are dads that are either way too forgiving of their children or way too hard on them. And I think he had a great balance of the two. And it's really what helped me not hate the game is because I love trying to impress my dad as a kid. So I think he's an exceptional coach. He's not doing it anymore. Actually, he just took he didn't want to be in the college scene anymore because of how time consuming it is. The recruiting road, all that. It's basically a year round job. He wanted more time with the kids, so he just took a little assistant high school gig at our local Columbia High School. So he's still coaching, but really he just wants some time hands off to invest in the younger ones like he did us. But I can't say enough good things about him, man. Like I said, he's really grafted me into the man I am and the basketball player I am. And there's obviously a lot of people that had an impact on me, but I'd say he's probably one of, if not the biggest impact in my life so far.
Mm-hmm. This makes me think of my interview with G Ladd. We were talking about him before the podcast, but big family. You have a pretty big family also, a lot of brothers and sisters. Yeah. In what way are you most like your dad? And then maybe like, what is Mike most like? And maybe your sister is most like him?
Yeah, I mean, there's 8 kids in the family, so there's a lot to choose from with each of us. But all of us, it's wild. And my mom homeschooled all of us, so
wow.
It was a while. It was a zoo growing up. But my dad did a great job of instilling respect and all that in us. And I think you see that to this day. I get compliments from people I interact with or that interact with my younger siblings and tell me how much they are respectful as young kids. And I think that just goes to reflect on my dad and what he taught us at a young age. And for me personally, I'm not sure exactly what I take from him most. Probably just my observatory nature, just sitting back and observing things that aren't necessarily at the forefront of everyone's mind. Mm-hmm. I like to think I do a little bit of that. And I see him do it every day. So I think that's a really unique skill he has, is to take little things from different situations that most people wouldn't and apply them to his life. Or with us, he would, correct us in some way, whether we were whether it was on the basketball court, we're doing something nobody else would notice, like bad body language, for example, or whether that's us, I don't know what we do in the house, but do something wrong and just correct us and help us become better people. So, like I said, can't say enough good things about him, but I like to think I take a lot of things from him, but that's just one of them for sure.
Yeah, man, it comes off in just the few minutes we've been talking and other interviews. So it's awesome. And that's an important thing, I think, for like anyone, basketball player, person at a restaurant, person here, like being respectful, being a good person is like, that's number one over anything. So shout out to him. Shout out to you too. And talk to me about the move to Seattle. He got an assistant job, your dad, at UW, if my research is right. Tell me, what were your first impressions of Seattle basketball? You had seen Indiana, you had seen Missouri, now you're coming up to Seattle.
It was like a whole different country, it felt like, because I've been in the Midwest like my whole life, and then to move out there, dudes are just scrappier, don't really care, about all the rules or the so-called rules that we had in Indiana. It was just like, go out there and hoop. It was just a bunch of hoopers. So I really appreciated that for me, because I kind of grew up playing all proper and, doing things, whatever. And then when I went out there, it was kind of a culture shock. I think that helped me kind of develop an inner dog in me. I like to think so, at least, that I didn't have before. And I think Seattle brings that out of everyone, really, because you can't really hoop or you can't be good out there unless you have that. So I was super excited to move out there because I was already committed to UW, and then my dad got the job. So it was kind of like a double fist bump. And then Coach Romar, obviously, we've been connected with him our whole lives. So it was just, I was stoked to get out there. Obviously, it only lasted like 9 months, but it was probably the most influential 9 months of my basketball career, I'd say, for numerous reasons. Like I said, the basketball, and then we can get into Nathan Hale and all that, but having those coaches on our staff was just phenomenal. I loved it. Right.
You have Brandon Roy as a coach. You're playing with your brother. You're going with 29-0 state championship. That's I heard you say it was the most fun you've ever had playing basketball.
100%. I'll stick to that for sure. Just because, one, the competition out there was better. We were on the national scale, 29-0, and then having B. Roy and G. Ladd, all them as our coaching staff, it was just, they poured into us every day confidence and knowledge and stories about the league that we hoped to get to at the time. So, it was just carefree basketball. I was just out there hooping with my brothers, and we brought home a national championship. So there's really it was like a storybook ending to our high school careers, and then going into the next chapter at Mizzou, I'm sure we'll get to later on. But high school in Seattle was different, and I loved every bit of it.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear from an outside perspective. who do you remember meeting first? Who was like, wow, this is like maybe it was a coach or somebody you were impressed with playing basketball, like when you were really new to Seattle? Yeah.
I remember we got there and Nate Robinson was hooping, because I think that was like his first year out of the league or something, but he was out there scrimmaging and shooting and stuff. And then he was super outgoing, and he was convinced he could beat me in a shooting competition if he used his left hand. He's like, I'll beat you. I'm a lefty. So he's like, I'll beat you as a lefty. So he shot, and then he almost beat me. He didn't, but he almost did. I was like, man, this guy. But no, that was just, I grew up watching dudes like him on TV and then dunk contests, all that. And you don't see dudes like that in Indiana or Columbia, Missouri. So it was pretty cool, pretty unique, and just kind of was a little taste of what I was going to experience throughout my 9 months in Seattle, which was being coached by B. Roy and hooping with all these guys in the summer leagues and all that. It was just, the basketball scene was totally different, but I loved it for sure.
Man, that's awesome. An embarrassing, I remember Nate Robinson was at Jamal Crawford's Elite 30 camp. And he's shooting around, and the ball goes towards me. I'm like, all right, here's my one chance. Let me throw him a ball, get him an assist. And I throw it over his head. And I still haven't lived that down. I feel like he's not coming on the podcast for that reason, and I don't blame him.
Yeah, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, no, it's terrible.
Maybe you'll get your chance.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I'm on this side of the mic. So, did you win a state championship in Missouri also?
We did, yeah.
Wow.
We did. It was the year before Seattle too.
Wow.
So that was really special in its own unique way, but it wasn't the exact same for obvious reasons, but it was still awesome.
How was Brandon Roy different than any other coach you've played for throughout your career?
I think it's just because that was the first players coach I played for. I mean, he'd been a player his whole career, and that was his first experience really coaching. So it was kind of, he related to us on a different level. We still respected him a ton, but it was almost like he was a bro out there, just like giving us tips, giving us pointers, and we all respected it. It wasn't like a coach yelling at you and telling you to do something to you, shake your head and go do it. It was, we wanted to do everything the way he said, because we knew what type of player he was. We knew the knowledge he had, and we just soaked up every bit of it. So it was basically a ragtag group of guys that, transfers. We had just got there, but he kind of bonded us all together, and I still talk to some of those dudes to this day. So it was just really unique. You don't see that type of story too often in high school sports, but it really felt like we were on a national spotlight as, 10th and 11th graders, which is just crazy.
Yeah. That's got to be crazy. It's got to be a lot to take in, Sure. I'm sure there were a lot of college scouts coming to see you, to come see your brother. You mentioned being homeschooled, and that's something I didn't even know you could do while playing basketball during high school. So what's the best and worst parts of being homeschooled, would you say?
The best parts is for sure the freedom you get, whether, I don't know how you choose to spend it, but for us, it was basketball. So when we were at UW, we'd wake up, do a little bit of school, and then go lift with Coach Shapiro, who was the strength coach at Washington at that time, while everyone else, was in PE or something. So it was just those little things that give you separation over other guys you're trying to beat was huge. And our whole lives were homeschooled. So it was just those little things kind of add up. And I think I owe it to that, to where I'm at today, because otherwise you run out of time. You go to school, you come home, eat, maybe you go to the gym, and then you have homework. But for us, it was you wake up, go shoot a little bit, shower, do a little bit of school, go lift, go shoot, practice. It's just like constant, So we loved it. We loved it, every bit of it. And I think that really is kind of what separated us at a young age and allowed us to have the success of Nathan Hale and beyond. As for the worst part, I'd say it's the social element. It was not as bad for us because we had 8 kids, so we were each other's best friends. But I think it can be tough because, unless you're playing AAU or a sport at a high level, you don't get that social interaction. That's where you get that stereotype of weird homeschool kids, because they aren't hanging out with people. So it's, they're just getting poured into their parents. They almost become their parents, and that can be a good or a bad thing depending on who they are. But there was not really too many negatives for us because we were social through basketball. But that was probably the one thing where sometimes I wish I went to school just to have those, the lunch breaks and bantering with your friends. It's just not there. It can get lonely at times, but luckily I had brothers and sisters both below and above me that had that same goal and drive that I did. So it wasn't really too much of an issue for me.
Like you say, there's always the stereotypes of being homeschooled, but not only basketball seems like a little bit of a cheat code for it, but having a big family. And I'm sure your mom was kind of used to it at that point. She knew all the tricks.
Yeah, man, I can't imagine. I don't know how she did it, but I don't envy her. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. I can still remember the day realizing you have to go to school for 8 hours. 8 hours. I was a kid thinking 8 hours. How many 30-minute TV shows is that? That's the only thing I could,
compare it to.
I'd compare it to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's funny.
So again, we mentioned, 29-0 state championship, national championship, you average a double. So with the knowledge of experiences that you've had since then, what are your thoughts about that team overall? Like, not necessarily things around it, but just like that core, that locker room, the way you guys played on the court at Nathan Hale. Yes.
I think that was one of the reasons I said that was the most fun I've had is mostly because of the players. Is like I said, a lot of transfers, a lot of dudes that had never met each other, and there was just no bad blood. There was no jealousy. And it's easy to be jealous when you have Michael Porter, who's like the number one player in the country, and everybody's coming with their cameras on him. That can drive young dudes mad because that's all they care about is being the best. So, but for us, that was never the issue. It was just everyone was happy for each other, and everybody was excited to get coached by B. Roy and all the other dudes. And we went at it every day. Like, that was our games, was practice, because we were our best competition. It was just going at it in practice, and sometimes it get heated, but that's what got us all better. So the locker room culture was great. I loved going on road trips with them. We wouldn't get like the normal school bus. B. Roy would like pay for a really nice, almost like a party bus. We'd just be like chilling from there and hanging out. It was just crazy experiences that most high school teams don't get to go on. But no, man, I have so many good memories from that team. But one of the main ones will just be the guys and the lack of selfish, it was just good vibes all around, really.
That's awesome. And it's an interesting dynamic that I think my wife even pointed out as I was talking to her about this interview and research and stuff. So you're an NBA player. Not only are you an NBA player, like your multi-year deal, rookie year coming up with the Grizzlies here, ready to get going. You think about just like if you're a person that's making it to the NBA, who's from a family that's never made it to the NBA before, that's like ultimate dream. You're calling everyone, people are texting you from all around. And it still has to be amazing. Like you're talking about, throughout this, reaching your goal, putting in how many years of work to get to the NBA, to get a multi-year deal. But then you think about your brother's also in the NBA. He's Michael Porter Jr., top draft pick, killing it in the bubble, doing all this and all that. So like, what has that taught you about life, or have you learned anything from that? What's that like for you? Is it any less exciting?
Yeah, I don't think so. That is something that I can see being troublesome if you just look at it from the outside. But with Michael, I've always been his biggest fan, I feel like. So it's never been an issue. I mean, he's obviously making more money than me, but who am I to complain? I've made it, and I still have goals and aspirations, as we talked about, but there's no point in complaining because there's always going to be somebody that's making more, somebody that, there's going to be a LeBron James of the world. So I can't complain. I just got to be grateful for what I have, and that I am. So, but especially when it comes to my brother, because I'm his biggest fan, and I'm always going to be his biggest supporter. And to see him doing what he's doing, if anything, it's just motivation for me, realizing like, I can do this too. So, but that's a very good question. I think a lot of dudes can struggle with that if they don't get a hold of it at a young age, because you see that culture all the time in the NBA, like dudes on a rookie contract trying to live up to the big guys and, getting all these fancy cars and buying these fancy watches. It's just not me. I feel like that's wasteful, and I should just be, thankful for what I have and leave it at that. So that's where I'm at right now. I don't know really if that answers your question.
No, it does. It really does, because it's like, it's almost even funny to ask. You would never ask that to somebody who's as skilled as a person in their profession as you are, except for like this specific situation. Like you watch your play on the court, it's like, yeah, that guy is one of the top whatever players to play basketball on earth right now, but you just happen to have your brother also there, which when you have the attitude like you do is just exciting and cool. Like, all right, this is my brother. Like, how many people get to experience this? The Holiday brothers, the Ball brothers, the Plumleys, but the Porters, they're there.
Yeah, exactly. You just got to sit back and be thankful. And like you said, you can either look at it like there's all these dudes making, like LeBron makes like 20 times more than me, but at the same time, it's like, I'm still, like you said, there's only been like 4,000 something players that ever played in the NBA. Just, like, I'm at the elitist of the elite. So you just got to pat yourself on the back, but keep striving to be great. And I think that's the mindset I have right now.
It's cool because you're successful, but you're still humbled all the time. So I think that's the perfect dynamic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
I
awesome.
appreciate that.
Yeah, man. It's cool to see. Not everybody will have that attitude. So hopefully people will learn from that and see that that's possible.
Yes,
So
yes,
you're at Nathan Hale. And then you do your thing. We've talked about that. What was it like making a decision, decommitting from UW, that you knew basically people were going to talk about that decision? Like in my life, I think about have had that happen, or I know my family's not going to necessarily agree or this or that, but I know in my heart of hearts that's what I want to do, and I know it's the right decision for me. Not necessarily that your family would disagree with you about this, but people are going to talk.
For sure. But I think that just comes with it, honestly. It goes with the comparison thing, I think. But when you get in that state of mind and you're always trying to please everyone, you're never going to at this level. It's easy if you're, in the workspace, in a little cubicle with your partners, whatever. But with people that you don't know are looking at you, it's impossible to please everyone. So I just got to do what's best for me and consult with my inner crew, my family, my close friends, and figure out what that is. But I used to look up my name all the time on Twitter, see what people were saying. And, as a kid, you're looking at the rankings, seeing the updates, but I've kind of just thrown all that out the window because it's really toxic for me personally. I don't blame dudes who do that, but for me, it's just tough because I do care what people think. I think everybody does to some degree, but I try not to feed into that by looking at stuff or in the Washington case when I decommitted, like looking on Twitter and seeing all the haters. It just brings you down, all the energy. Instead of looking at the positive, like, hey, I just made a big decision that takes guts and I did it for my future and all of that. Instead, you're just like, dang it, I should have, you start second guessing stuff. So it's tough, but I try not to care too much about what people think, even though it's really, really hard.
Right. It has to be tempting, to search your name on Twitter and see, but then you really think about who the people are on Twitter that are saying, especially negative comments, like who really has the time to do that? Who has time to tweet a lot of time anyway, but to find somebody and be negative like that, like a lot of times honestly, it's probably kids.
Exactly. Kids are just trolls trying to get you mad. But at the same time, on the other hand, it's much easier to look up your name, when you're doing good or you have a 40-point game or something. I think that's equally as dangerous because it feeds into your ego, gets your head too big. On the outside, it's like, okay, ignore the haters, all that. But sometimes you got to ignore the praise too and just keep doing your thing. I think a lot of dudes could learn that and be better off. I'm still not all the way, but I'm trying. Sometimes I get tempted to look up my name when I'm doing good, or if I sign a multi-year contract, seeing what people are thinking. But it's like, it's not healthy. I don't like it. So,
how have you gotten better at that for people who could be in your position? Because, like you say, you're feeding into the ego at some point when you do that. Not to say everyone wouldn't do that a little bit, but
yeah. No, it's taken time. It wasn't like a cold turkey thing where I just stopped. It was kind of just like slowly narrowing off. And then every time, I told you earlier about my dad and how observatory he is. Sometimes you got to observe your own heart and see how you react to things and just take a moment and be like, how am I feeling about this? Be mindful of it. And I think every time I did look up my name, whether good or bad, I was able to just look at my heart and be like, did I need to do that? Why did I do that? How did that make me feel? It's just those things. And, I like to journal a lot these days. I think it helps a ton. Just kind of get it introspect into your own heart and seeing how your brain works with those things. And you'll start to see it's not good. It's nasty. And for me personally, I don't know how other people react to it, but for me personally, it would feed into my ego. I would think a little bit too high of myself. And that can be your downfall just as much as being depressed because people are hating on you on Twitter. So,
man, I love that point. You don't hear that point a lot, but that's so true. That's so true.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
for sure.
You mentioned be a Roy players coach, very successful at that. I'm sure he's going to continue to have success as well. And then you go to college at Missouri, Coach Martin, maybe you wouldn't say not necessarily against a player's coach, but a little bit more intense from what I hear.
For sure.
What about you wants that as a player? Sorry to interrupt you, but
you're good.
On the surface, you wouldn't necessarily want somebody that's yelling and in your face, but I've had experiences and I love those coaches too.
Yeah. And I tell people, I've done a few podcasts and I tell them that even though when I first got there, I hated it. I liked Coach Martin because I wouldn't have committed if I didn't, but I didn't like being told I was wrong and getting criticized because growing up, I was always pat on the back, you're doing good, whether I don't know. My dad was a great coach at that, but people, social media or coaches, whatever, would tell me how great I was. And to be told, get on the line, your defense sucks. So it kind of does hurt your ego a little bit. And at first I hated it, but as the season grew on, I saw kind of how it molded me into the player that I eventually became in Mizzou. And I loved it. I still talk to Coach Martin, once a week or so, because I appreciate that presence in my life. And he tells you bluntly how it is. And I do appreciate people that can do that. So it hurts, but it's really, I think that's one of those things that's good for you. But you got to find that balance, like you were talking about. You want some of it, but not too much, because you have to have a relationship with the player. But in that instant, I think Coach Martin nailed it. Really good guy, really good coach, and I appreciate what he did for me personally.
Yeah, it sounds like it has to be authentic.
Got to be, yeah. You can't just bark just to bark,
Right. You're going to see through that. People will see through that. So, man, another successful double filled season this year just at Mizzou. You start in the NCAA tournament. And then in another podcast, like you mentioned, you've done some other podcasts. Shout out to Blacktop, Smack Talk. Love those guys. In their interview, I think I had heard you talk about kind of being overwhelmed at the combine. Can you elaborate that on a little bit, or elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, it's just each step you take, it gets a little more surreal. Like from middle school to high school, it's like, dang, this is a totally different game. Dudes are really good. And then high school to college, obviously that's a huge jump. But then college to the NBA, the combine isn't the NBA, but it's a little taste of it. You're talking to all the GMs and you see all these official people here, and it's so strategic, all the technology, everything. It's just like, dang, this is what it is. And it can be overwhelming. For me personally, it was, because I was so young. I didn't think I was going to be one and done. I was testing the waters. And literally like less than a year ago, I was playing for a state championship in Seattle. And then here I am talking to Magic Johnson, getting interviewed. Real. You know what I mean? It's just like crazy. It's surreal. So I was overwhelmed, but at the same time, just like jaw-dropping awe. It was just cool, It wasn't overwhelming, like I'm sad, I need to go home. But it was just crazy experience. I'll remember that forever, just that feeling of shock. And I like to cherish onto those feelings, because it does kind of keep you motivated. And when I was there, I was like, man, I might be going back to school in more year, but I went back hungrier than ever, because I saw what it was. I saw the dudes, and I wanted to be like one of those legends that dudes 10 years from now looked at me and I was like, dang, that's really Jontay Porter. That'd just be kind of cool. So I try to find little things in every situation to be motivated by, and that was definitely a big thing to be motivated by.
Yeah. Like you talk about, only a certain amount of people have made it to the NBA. Only a certain amount of people have had that experience to be just totally jaw-dropped by talking to Magic Johnson, being interviewed, seeing that. And then how many of those people were honest enough with themselves and grown up enough to make the decision to say, hey, you know what? This is great, but I'm not ready yet. Let me go back and let me do that. Again, that's a decision not everyone agrees with, but that it's right in your own heart.
For sure. And at the time, I didn't know it was right in my own heart. And obviously it didn't play out the way I thought it was, because I didn't play another game in college because of my injuries. But I think I learned more from going back to school that one year than I ever did growing up, just about life and how to handle myself and perspectives. It's easy. I'm not going to say I'm depressed, but I was super sad for obvious reasons when I hurt my knee that second time. Right. It's like, am I play again? This basketball even for me? Maybe I should just go back to school and get a little job, or work for my brother because he'll be a millionaire. It's just like there's all these thoughts running through your head. And you're like, you just got to push it out and try to find good in those things. And I think I did. And I see where it landed me. Maybe I'd be making more money right now if I had stayed in my first draft and gotten drafted, whatever, late first, early second, been in my second year in the league, third year. But I think I'm really happy where I'm at now, and I think it happened for a reason. Memphis took a chance on me, and I think I found my role here. And I think there's good to come out of my injuries, both in basketball and just in life in general. So it's hard in the moment to see the good in those things, but I think, looking in the past, it's a lot easier. Hindsight's 20/20,
For sure.
Yeah.
I think about conversations I've had with just people that have had different kind of struggles in their lives, and they're in great basketball opportunities now, but they could have been in better basketball opportunities. But I think about, like, would they be the same person? Would it be the same? Like, would you be the same Jontay Porter now? Would you be have the foundation that you do and be ready to take on a 3-year deal? And that's like your journey's not just like that, it's
exactly
up and down. And
You also got to realize, sorry, basketball will only be here for like, I might be done when I'm 30, and then you have the rest of your life to live. So I think just life experiences is much more important. I think I definitely got those in the past few years. Like I said, everything kind of mounted to this last Sunday when I signed.
Mm-hmm.
It's like these last 4 years have been tough, but I think down the road, I'm going to look back and be so thankful that I went through them. As tough as they were, I think more good came out of it for sure.
Is there anything that you learned about yourself in the last 4 years that you probably didn't know before?
I think I would always tell myself I didn't care what people thought, but it became so evident to me when I did get hurt and I didn't get drafted that I cared more about what people thought about me than what I thought, like what I care about myself. You know, I valued other people's opinions of me way more. And I'll tell you a story that I was like, this is when I know it was really bad. It was after I didn't get drafted. My hair got really nappy. I needed a haircut. But I was like, I didn't want to go get a haircut because I didn't want to talk to the barbers and have them be like, you didn't get drafted, all that. I'm like, why do I care? Like, this is my story, my journey. And I'm over here being ugly with my hair because I don't want to be, even though everyone knew I didn't get drafted, it's like, I don't want to be confronted with that fact. And so then when that happened, I'm like, yo, you got to do some introspection. And I think I did that. And I still have a long ways to go. I'm sure I'll look, 5 years from now, I'll look back to me right now and be like, he was so immature and cared maybe about what people thought. But I like to think I've grown since then. And at least I'm aware of it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I think that's the biggest thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And you can't be, I don't know who I heard say this, shout out to whoever it was, but you can't be too good to fail. Like in a way, you're Jontay Porter, you have all the success, but yeah, you did, you went undrafted. In a way, that's not a failure. You had a dream maybe to go drafted and be picked this high, but you can't let that be a reason to not go forward. Are you going to stop your basketball career now just because of that? Like a lot of people are too good to fail. A lot of people are too good to post a YouTube video and not get any views. Like you have to start and you have to do you want to do this or do you just want to be successful right away? And I'm 100%.
Sure we were talking about that earlier. Instant gratification is a trap. And I think a lot of dudes can pursue that when they could waste all their time looking for instant gratification instead of starting slow. And it just builds up and goes parabolic at some point. And I believe that'll happen with this podcast. I don't even know when you started. I haven't really go over the podcast, but I believe that, dude. I appreciate it.
Man, I appreciate you. I'll get you a couple more questions here and then get you out of here, man. Go enjoy that 3-year deal. No, I'm kidding. So Memphis, man, talk to me about, you have some friends on the team already. So I'm sure that's helped getting adopted or adapted. They kind of adopted you, with a good salary. But take me through your first impressions of the Grizzlies organization.
Well, first impression was just like thankfulness because they took a chance on me when not many people would. People said like I wouldn't play basketball at high level again just because not many people do come back from 2 major knee surgeries. So for them to take a chance on me told me enough about them that I needed to know. But as I've gotten to know them, you just see, one, how nice they are, how much they care about you. It is a business at the end of the day. I understand that, but they do care about you wholeheartedly and want to see you be your best. And one of my best friends here is my strength coach, and he's just the coolest guy in the world. We go golfing together. It's just like off the court stuff that you don't really get other places. And the teammates, they're all great. There's my team in particular. I don't know what my brother's situation is like, but we don't really have too many egos on the team. There's not a selfish bone, or at least that I've seen in many of the guys' personalities, and everybody just wants to be great, have a good time. So I haven't gotten to get to know them too well yet because we went to the bubble. We had that, and it was kind of just every man for themselves. Even now, we can only do individual workouts. I'm not even working out with the guys. So I see them in the locker room here and there, and they're all super nice. I love them. I'm excited to get to work with them. But the first reaction, Memphis isn't the best city in the world, but I wouldn't be anywhere else. I wouldn't rather be anywhere else just because they took a chance on me. They saw the potential in me, and I'm going to try my best to be the best, make them look like the best front office in the league. So we'll see. Man,
it's going to be exciting to watch. I also had seen you talk about you like video games and you like to play 2K, if I'm right.
Yeah.
Okay. So this hopefully won't be totally off the wall question, but like they try to replicate what it's like to be, in your situation, be in the NBA, be a rookie doing this thing. What do they get right and what do they don't get right about? I don't know if you played it, if it's like career mode or what exactly that's called.
Yeah, it's accurate to some degree. I think But it really is different. I haven't played my player yet, surprisingly. So I don't know what they got that right or wrong. But the my career thing is just a good time. I enjoy upgrading the player, having fun. But, there's not like the my park and all that. You aren't doing that. You're just going to the gym, practicing, coming home, ordering Chipotle, just stuff like that. So it's a lot different, but it's a good time for sure. And 2K definitely did their thing with their gameplay. That's really why I'm there. So
yeah. Speaking of, what are you getting, the Xbox Series X, the PS5?
PS5. I've been an Xbox man my whole life, but PS5, they just have so many exclusives. I'm trying to play the Spider-Man games. That's like my favorite superhero. So I think I'm going PlayStation this year, or just make a PC. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. But I haven't played as much video games as I used to, but I'm definitely gonna get one or the other for all these road trips and whatnot.
There you go. Yeah, PS5's got Jontay Porter on there, so I might have to go with you. It's a heavily debated topic right now in the Mills brothers.
I can't even get one of them, so I guess it's not even worth chatting about.
That's very true. Maybe they'll see this and hook us both up. So
yeah.
to be continued on that. You signed a deal with Puma. Endorsement deal, apparel deal. I don't know what exactly the right terminology is. So take me through what that's actually like in reality.
It's really cool. They've been great to me. I signed like in the middle of the pandemic, so I didn't really get like the full, go to Puma headquarters and hang out with them, get to know everyone. But my brother was with Puma the year before.
Oh, okay.
And I kind of wanted to be in the same place as him because I was already getting gear from him from Puma, and I liked the dude that he was interacting with. So I have my own Puma rep. I just hit him up if I need anything. He'll take care of me. He sends me boxes almost every week. So, I got like 3 pairs of shoes right here. Just send me.
Man.
Cool.
Do you pick them out, or they are just like, you'll like these? Ooh.
Like, you see Mario and stuff. They did a collab with Nintendo. So maybe I'll just stick with Nintendo for my console. But they've been great. The dude's name is Logan. He's become one of my really good friends. So it's just easy. I take care of my friends and family. I didn't know Puma was like that, but they have a lot of good stuff. So I'm excited, and it's unique. You don't see too many people with Puma shoes on, but every time I wear them, I'm like, oh, those are pretty sweet. We didn't know Puma made those. So hopefully we can put Puma back on the map, Yeah,
you guys got a lot of players, man. Your brother, I don't know if he's still with him.
Everywhere.
Yep. Yeah. DeAndre Ayton, probably Kelly Oubre. If he's not, he should be. He might be with Converse, but
they got Melo just recently. That's a big get.
That's a big get. Yeah. That's huge. Yeah. Just a few more questions and then I will get you out of here, man. It's fun to think about your journey. Like, it's been a long time leading up to this point. You've checked a lot of goals off the list. And now it's kind of like a fresh slate almost.
Yeah.
So what are your goals now? Like, what do you think about accomplishing on a day-to-day basis?
I think my goal is just to carve out my niche with this team, because I haven't played in so long. They don't really know what I can do. I'm really just looking to have a strong training camp, show them what I can do, show them my improvements, and stay pain-free. Because I know if I can keep my knees healthy and keep the rest of my body healthy, that I'll have a very long and hopefully lucrative career and hopefully accomplish all the goals I set in front of me. So just taking it day by day, though, not putting any like rookie of the year goals on the line, but just being the best player I can be. And I know everything will take care of itself one way or the other.
It's the Zen student, not the Zen master yet, since Phil Jackson's still here, but the Zen student, man. I like it. And just to think about the people that have been a fan of yours for a lot of years now, the people from Missouri, people from UW, not that they had to leave you when you decommitted. I'm sure there's still some fans of you out there, Nathan Hale fans, all the things like that, new Grizzlies fans. Like, what would you say to them as they listen to this podcast?
I'm just trying to be thankful for everyone who stuck with me through all this, because it's easy to just sweep me under the rug and just focus on everyone else is making moves. I haven't played in almost 2.5 years, so I don't blame them for hopping off. But people have just stuck with me and DM me constantly, showing support and love. I'm just appreciative and thankful, and it really is one of the main reasons why I've kept on going, because I see people. It's easy to keep going when you see other people believe in you, and you don't want to quit on yourself. And I think that's something I could have done on multiple occasions these past few years. So just thankfulness and appreciation, I think, it goes a long way. And shout out to everyone who still supports me.
Man, shout out to you overcoming all you have with injuries and the mental part about that, and then just everything, man. It's cool to see your journey and hear you talk about it. And You're just another casual guy, another guy you would never expect to, that's who you're watching in the highlights. And that's the best part about it.
Thank you, man. This has been a lot of fun.
It's been a blast. So Jontay Porter on the Jerry Mills podcast. Have a great rookie season, and we'll see you soon.
Appreciate you. See you guys.